Can you tell me the importance of light and shadow and why do you love it? Why do you use it?
See, I've already told you that my first experience in architecture was shooting for Doshi himself. So, in most of the buildings, you know what, he also taught me, and basically what I saw, he enjoyed the most because he used to be with me when we were shooting buildings. So, what I saw, he enjoyed shooting the most in his own buildings was, how light would interact with spaces, and how people would give meaning to spaces, right? So, uh, basically, architecture, every architect tells you my building is basically made to interact with nature. So, the most important part of nature that interacts the most with any house is light.
Is light.
રાઈટ એટલે આપણા ઘરમાં લાઇટ આવે તો ઇટ્સ ડિઝાઇન સાયન્ટિફિકલી કે આ ડાયરેક્શનથી લાઇટ આ ટાઈમે આવી જોઈએ ના આવી જોઈએ, and basically when it comes it gives, it basically sculpts the whole space, તો મને એવું લાગે જ્યાં સુધી બિલ્ડિંગ પર લાઇટ ના પડે and that whole magic of it sculpting the space does not happen, the building is meaningless for me. So if I have to shoot a space where there's no sunlight, like I shoot for developers, if I'm shooting a sample flat જ્યાં આપણે આર્ટિફિશિયલ લાઇટમાં જ બધું શૂટ કરીએ તો બેસિકલી આઈ એમ નેવર ઇન્સ્પાયર્ડ. So I've been a photojournalist, I've been working in the open, so basically uh, interaction between two things is very important. So the whole interaction of light with buildings is very, and what I've noticed is even when architects are with me, and most shoots architects are around, they also feel very elated when light hits the building in the correct way. So if that is what is giving him the most happiness, that means that's the correct thing I need to capture, right? So what we do is, a lot of photographers now don't shoot for very long hours. Everybody has fixed hours, but I always start shooting before sunrise, and I always end my shoots after sunrise. So basically, we just follow the pattern of the light, and every corner that the light touches the building, we just photograph that, and that's what gives a lot of drama to the whole space. The whole idea of the frame being more cinematic, and also giving it more purpose actually happens. So no light, no shoot for me.
Doshi sir was a very big advocate of soft light.
And also, he always spoke about light, direct light also, right? The buildings, where if you see, most of the pictures, if you see that I've shot for Doshi, have great use of light also. Right? એટલે કદાચ એક જગ્યામાં અંધારું હોય પણ એક નાની સ્ટ્રીમ ઓફ લાઇટ આવતી હોય તો that also has a big meaning, right? So that's been the highlight of all my shoots that I've done till date in architecture.
આની શું story?
So this actually has become one of the most famous photographs that I've taken. Actually, this was when we were doing recce in IIM Bangalore. This is the library of IIM Bangalore. So મેં તમને જેમ કીધું, my greed was always to photograph him. My greed was not to shoot his buildings. તો એ મને છે ને દરેક બિલ્ડિંગ પહેલાં બતાવવા લઈ જાય. So when we reached IIM Bangalore, it was a long flight. We had a great distance to travel, and then immediately when I went to the room, દોશી સાહેબ કે ચલ આપણે કેમ્પસ જોવા જઈએ. સો આઈ સેડ અંકલ થોડી વાર આરામ કરો ને પછી જઈશું. મને કે કેમ તું ગરડો થઈ ગયો, તારે આરામ કરું? મેં હું તમારા માટે કહું છું. મને કે મને તો કહીશ જ નહીં, તારે ના જોવું તો હું જઉં છું. આઈ સેડ સારું.
When was this? Which year?
I don't remember now, but maybe 15 or 16 or 17 at the most. એટલે I took that small camera which
So he was already 85, 88. 80,
Yes.
85.
Yes. એટલે એ વખતે he gave me a grand tour of the campus. બપોરનો ટાઈમ હતો અને પછી we went back and rested. અને ઇવનિંગમાં સર ચાલ પાછું જોવા જઈએ. It was a huge campus. We were supposed to shoot on the next day. એટલે મેં કીધું સારું. So again I went with him and I was photographing wherever he was going because that was not the actual shoot. It was a recce. But I was making pictures because he was there in the space. So these steps he saw, and then I was standing at the steps and I saw the sunlight gleaming in, and then he started walking up, and then he raised his hands ke પેલું જો the sun કેવું આવે છે. So I got his hand, him there, and basically the whole essence. And this was shot handheld on a very small camera. But this became one of the very important images that I had ever made on him. And basically, we made 30-40 feet prints in most of the exhibitions wherever this is there. Yeah, so again, that divine moment happening, that him climbing up, the sunlight being there in the right space, and basically, that him pointing towards the light, the whole connection of all these elements coming together, I got it because I was hyper aware,
Hmm.
right?
Since we are talking about Doshi sir, let's just go through his pictures.
So this again was an image where he was in his office. This was my first day of shooting for him.
Hmm.
So I was very greedy photographing him only. So the whole idea of him being in his office, opening a plan, and the whole idea of how lines were converging, the light was coming in. Basically, the lines in the front also leading to him. So lot of architecturally correct elements happening, and the whole idea of him being there in a space, giving meaning to the whole space, right? Aaj if you go and photograph Doshi's office and say, Doshi's अपनी office होती, rather than him being there and actually working, gives the whole function to the whole space, right? That's why it's very special to me.
So, what is the story of this photograph?
So this was in Bhadra, એટલે Bhadraનો જે Premabhay Hall. So he took me to Premabhay Hall, and obviously at that time it was not very well kept કારણ કે બંધ થઈ ગયું હતું ખાસા ટાઈમથી. So it was in a bad state. So but he was walking me around and showing me the space, and I was very worried how I'm going to shoot this because કચરો પડ્યો હતો ને આ હતું ને તે હતું. But basically there was a very strong sense of architecture there. And when we went to the top floor, this is the lobby on the top floor, the gallery there, like ભયંકર કચરો ને net ફાટી ગઈ હતી. A lot of other things are happening over there, but he kept showing me and explaining કે જો અહીંથી આ વ્યૂ આવતું હતું પહેલાં હતું, and basically અહીંથી આ ડિરેક્શનથી વિન્ડ આવે, આ ટાઈમે લાઇટ આવે, and he was explaining a lot of things to me which I was waiting, and I was waiting in this space and hoping કે એ જ્યારે અહીંથી આવે there was some magic happening. So when he was walking there, suddenly there was just one opening જ્યાં net ફાટી લેતી, and a pigeon flew from there, and I was hyper aware, and I clicked that image. So that whole idea of, I don't know what it conveys, but the pigeon being there and it
That is a particular spot
man, and the way he was walking across the space, if he had overlapped एक second वक्ते, if he was overlapping a pillar also, the picture was not there, right? So sometimes luck favors you, but if you are ready for it, and basically there was some divine energy that was helping me always when I was photographing Doshi. કારણ કે કોઈ બિલ્ડિંગમાં હું શૂટ, like I was shooting LIC, probably send you the image to put it, and LIC માં the buildings have changed a lot now, right? લોકોએ ઘરો બનાવીને બધું બદલી નાખ્યું છે. I couldn't figure out કે કંઈક, અને એ વખતે લોકો બહાર નહોતા નીકળતા. For some reason it was a dead space. I couldn't figure out what to do, and I had almost given up shooting, and suddenly this nun out of nowhere પેલી જઈને એક સાધ્વી અને એ ચાલતા આવ્યા અને દરેક ઘરમાં જઈને ખાવાનું માગવા માંડ્યા. And I started following her and taking one or two pictures. She never spoke to me. She noticed me, but she never said no. And she never said, come, it's okay, take my picture. We had no conversation. She knew I was shooting, so she gave me an indirect consent, and I just kept photographing her. And that whole, the magic of her being there, and the way she walked, and the way she walked up and came down and did things. So we just shot a story around her. So our બહુ જ બધા incidences say where magic was happening when I was photographing only Doshi. It doesn't happen with me always, but it used to happen with me most of the time when I was photographing them. So there was something.
Do you believe in collective energy, like
હતું જ with him being around and
the space of his energy?
There was something magical which was happening, and I also couldn't believe, like this pigeon in that space and him walking correct and looking out and everything being there is impossible. Like even if I plan and do this for 10 days, the pigeon is never going to fly there. Right? So there was some magic happening.
But for that magic to happen, do you always keep a camera with you?
Yes. તો એના વગર તો
what is the combination?
So હવે તો I have a phone, but I still my Raghu always tells me and also curses me at times कि अभी तू हमेशा कैमरा नहीं रखता है because वो आपको ये शूट करियो अब right? But basically what I've seen from Raghu also is most of his images don't happen when you are at a space. Obviously ये तो बने ज कि આપણે કાલે વૃંદાવન જઈશું હોલી और वहाँ जाके जोरदार है तो पिक्चर्स तो बनने ही वाले कि कलर उड़ेगा हर कोई बना लेगा. But when he's going from the hotel room till Vrindavan, he's constantly shooting, or when he's traveling from his house to the airport also he's shooting. And the magic happens when he's observing and shooting the very simple things of life and converting them into great images. So the power of observation that I got is basically of being around him. That's when the magic happens. Like this was not the main shoot, or that idea of him going up the building was not the main shoot. But because I was with Raghu, I always had a camera with me. I was always shooting. Today you're a little lazy, you have a phone, but that's also good enough to make good quality printable images. But you have to lift it and be ready for things to happen, right? You can't wait to reach a restaurant or shoot selfies of yourself or others, just take it out for those reasons. You have to be also shooting. Like I always shoot with my phone on the signal also if things are happening, right? But at least I'm shooting something every time. So you have to shoot 24/7.